Hi guys and welcome. I just finished The Fires of Heaven this morning and so I'm very excited to chat with you guys about it because oh my god, so much happened. So this wasn't quite as fast-paced or action-packed, I guess, as The Shadow Rising book 4, but it still had a lot and it was still very good and there was a lot of more character-driven moments which I really liked. So to start off, we had the prologue with Elida in the tower with Alviarin and I guess her other cronies, her other Aes Sedai that are following her. And this actually really made me think that Elida is not as smart as I had originally thought, because in the previous books, I was scared of her. And then we get her POV in this chapter, in this prologue, and she's like so upset that the other Aes Sedai that basically overthrew Swan and are not, that basically, the other Aes Sedai that basically overthrew Swan Sanche for her to raise her up to the Amerlin seat are basically like not listening to her as she expected they would. And I was just thinking, I'm like, okay, so these guys helped you overthrow the former Amerlin seat and now you're just thinking that they're going to blindly follow you and fear you and respect you for what? I mean, honestly, they can overthrow you too. It was just really interesting, and I think it gave some kind of dimension to Elida's character that wasn't there before, and so I'm really excited to see her get taken down. And I'm really excited to see her find out that the people that she trusts are dark friends, because I don't think she is herself. No, we have some POVs for her, and we know she's not. So, I don't know. I'm like, Elida, you're not smart. At least not as smart as I thought you were. And so then we move on to the rest of the prologue, which has Robin and some of the other Forsaken together, which again was super interesting because I think up until now we'd really only had interactions with Lanfear and Moghedien, and the other ones who died, I honestly already forgot who they are. And so I thought that Robin and Samael were just, I mean, I don't know, they kind of didn't really do much. They were just there, but I really like Lanfear and I really like Grendel. So that was a really great introduction to them, and like to find out their plots and their schemes and how like they're all like plotting against each other. It's just a really interesting dynamic, and I'm really excited to see what's going to happen from there. So in this book, we spend a lot of time with Nynaeve, which I really liked because I really like Nynaeve as a character. I know that's probably not a very popular opinion. Before I started reading Wheel of Time, I'd heard a lot in the community about how people are like, oh, Nynaeve's so annoying, you just kind of have to get used to it, or like, whatever. And I didn't find that. I think that she's great. I think she's a really well-developed character. I think that she's a great character. I understand why people might not like her maybe as a person. I personally do, but I also don't think I would like her if I knew her in real life. Like if I had to travel with her halfway across the world like Elaine does, I would not like her. But as a character, she's fun to read about, and I don't really understand the hate towards her. So in this book, we had a lot of really good development with Nynaeve, at least I found. So it starts when she kind of gets told off by Egwene in Teleron Riod, and when Egwene stands up to her and then tells her she's going to make her drink that like boiled catfern that Nynaeve used to make them all drink when she was the wisdom in Eamon's Field. And just since then, I feel like we have a lot of Nynaeve recognizing when she's being, I guess, willfully stubborn about like things going wrong that are her fault, or like her owning up to any weaknesses. I think she's kind of getting to that point where she's realizing that like she can't be perfect and she doesn't need to be perfect, and to start admitting when like she messes up. And we see kind of a lot of what happens when she does mess up. And so on that note, I thought that it was also very, very realistically done how Nynaeve sets herself to these high standards, and now we kind of understand why she is the way that she is, because she's like holding herself to these impossible standards, like just completely not allowing herself to make any sort of mistakes whatsoever, how she always has to look like she can't be seen in any sort of negative light by like anyone who's with her, so Elaine or Egwene or anyone really. And I also mentioned in my last video for The Shadow Rising that I found that Nynaeve's character motivations were very shallow, just that her whole thing was that she didn't like Moiraine for what she did and she wanted to take Moiraine down. So to have her in this book realize that she wants to pursue being an Aes Sedai, to join the Yellow Aja so that she can find a heal, potentially to heal Rand from his madness, and even maybe to reverse stealing or gentling. I really like that. I think that gives a lot to her character, and it kind of made up for some of my complaints that I had with her before. And so in this book, we see finally what happens when she messes up bad, and like when those actions have consequences, and we kind of see her changed a little bit from that. So I'm talking about when her and Birgitte get followed by Moghedien in Teleran Riyadh from when they're spying on her as she's spying on the other Forsaken, and then they go back to outside the wagon with like the menagerie where they are, and then Moghedien follows her there. That scene honestly terrified me. I don't remember the last time that I have actually felt a jump scare in a book. Like, I literally gasped and I dropped my kobo, and just when Moghedien speaks from behind them, it was really good. But yes, we see like Nynaeve messed up. Like, she realized maybe she bit off more than she could chew. Maybe she was a little too prideful because she'd managed to best Moghedien the next time, and so she definitely suffers the consequence for it because of what happens to Birgitte, who basically gets ripped out of the dream and gets ripped out of her cycle in the wheels weaving and turning. But I did actually really like that as a plot point, because I really like Birgitte, and I think it's super interesting that she's going to be hanging out or like following them through their journey, especially now that she's bonded to Elaine, which was really interesting. And I really like it because I really like Birgitte and I don't really like Elaine, and I thought it was so great when Elaine is like, what does she even do? She's like getting mad that Sarandon won't come with them, and she wants her to, and she's like thinking to herself, she's like, I should grab her and like bring her with me and make her leave behind her animals. And I'm like, Elaine, like, what are you doing? You have to let people make their own decisions. You can't just whatever. And then she's like, oh, Brigitte's not helping me, and thinks to herself that she should have like forced her to obey her, and she was like taking her warder oath or whatever. And so it was really great when after Birgitte was like, I mean, yeah, I'll help you if you're in any real danger, but when you're acting like a spoiled brat, then you're like getting what's coming. I'm not gonna do anything. And then she starts screaming, and Birgitte's like, oh, like, are you tired or are you hungry? Do you need me to get a wet nurse for you? It was really great. I really like her presence, and I kind of like how it seems like she will keep Elaine and Nynaeve in check from ripping each other's throats off. And another thing I wanted to bring up, at least with Nynaeve, before moving on to other characters and other stories, was her imposter syndrome, I guess, where she was being so hard on herself for being a coward, because she literally saw one of the Forsaken behind her and got a little bit scared and then couldn't channel because she was scared. And in that moment, like, that was when everything, I guess, kind of went to hell. Like, she was captured by Moghedien. Birgitte got messed up by Moghedien. And even, like, Birgitte tells her, she was like, Nynaeve, it's not cowardly to be afraid when you're face to face with one of the Forsaken. And then later on in the book, Nynaeve is literally like single-handedly, well, okay, whatever, she's got Moghedien with her, but that's not really like a good support. So it's kind of single-handedly going after Robin in Teleran Riyadh, like one of the very strong Forsaken, who's at this time very angry because he's fighting Durant and he hasn't won yet. And so she like single-handedly chases after him, finds him alone, and attacks him. And the entire time she's thinking about what a coward she is. And I'm like, Nynaeve, are you serious? No, you're not a coward, sweetie. You are a brave girl. And she saved Rand's life because of it. So yes, I really love Nynaeve. This book just kind of, I didn't dislike her before at all, but this book pushed her up a rung on the ladder for me for how much I like her. Didn't do anything for Elaine, maybe pushed her down if anything. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of Elaine. I do really like the other Emansfielders, except for Perrin, who is just kind of there for me. And I was not sad that he and Fail weren't in this book, to be honest. But anyways, so I also wanted to talk about Rand and his development and his, I guess, just character arc in this one, because we see so much has changed from who he was in the first book, and I think Robert Jordan has done a really, really great job with that, because none of it is unrealistic. None of it seems like it came too fast or too slow or anything. Like, it seems like a very natural, like, progression to his character based on the circumstances that he's in, but it's still really difficult to read about, because there's like one time where he's just like super cold and super hard, and Egwene is thinking that she's like, this isn't the Rand I know. Like, he was such a gentle boy, he wasn't sentencing people to be hung for, you know, whatever, for stealing or whatever. But it's like, he's got to do it. He's leading these people. He's leading the Aiel. He's gonna be like, is leading the Tyrants. He's gonna be leading the Kyrians at this point. And so he's like, I have to be strong. I can't afford not to be, because I mean, these people will, first of all, they won't follow him if he's not, but also it's just it's like what he says, duty is heavier than a mountain, or something that he got from Lan. And it just, it's so hard to read, because it's so hard to watch Rand like lose his humanity as he's just shutting like the more and more feeling parts of himself out, as he has to keep doing these, like, I guess, just keep putting his feelings aside for the good of, I mean, the entire world, really. And so when we kind of have the culmination of that, when he's in Teleran Riod chasing after Robin, I thought it was so well done, where he's basically like not even feeling, like he's barely even human at this point. He's just like a machine, like a hell-bent machine based on like revenge. But he's not even like, well, actually, no, he is full of rage when he goes after Robin. He wasn't when he like initially went to Kyrie, and he was more like cold anger, and then he gets there, and after like what happens to Avienda and Matt, he is just, oh, it was great. I loved the ending of this book. I loved just seeing Rand, like seeing what Rand can do, like how strong he is. It's so great. And the scene after honestly had me in tears, when after he kills Robin with the balefire, and he goes out and he sees Matt and Avienda, and they're there and they're alive, and he realizes that like the balefire that he used on Robin was so strong that it like ripped him out of the pattern far enough back that he'd never killed Avienda and Matt. And he was like, he thinks, he's like, I need to let go of Sidon for this, because I need to feel this. And he goes and he runs and like hugs Avienda, and he's like crying and laughing, and then he turns to Matt, and it's so sweet. And I'm like, I need more happy Rand in my life. I really, really do. And so Matt, oh god, Matt was so great in this book also. I love the whole time he's like, I'm getting out, I'm leaving tomorrow. Well, okay, so he's like, I'm getting out, I'm done, I'm leaving. So he goes and he tells Rand that he's leaving, and then he sees that some of the Tyrants and Kyrians are about to be ambushed by some of the Shido Aiel, and so he's like, well, I can't just let them run into an ambush. So he goes and he's like, I'm just gonna give them some friendly advice and then leave. And then he's like, okay, well, I gave them all this advice, and now I can't, like, if they get killed, it's gonna be because of me, so I at least have to lead them through this. So he ends up like leading throughout the entire war, and he ends up killing Couladin. I did not see that coming at all, but I was like, the entire time he's like, okay, just this one more thing and then I'm out of here. And it's like, no, Matt, I think the pattern has more in store for you than just that. So that was really good. Oh, and I also, speaking of Rand, I thought it was a really interesting parallel. First of all, there's a parallel with Rand and Perrin, when Rand is thinking, like, from Perrin back in book 4, when a bunch of people die at Eamon's Field and he almost like doesn't have the strength to go on, or in the Two Rivers. And then it was a nice, interesting parallel with Rand in this book, where he's leading a bunch of people to their death, and he like thinks to himself, he's like, I can't be responsible for the living while mourning the dead. And so he just keeps going on. And I thought it was just an interesting parallel with Perrin, who is obviously like very emotional, and Rand, who is just shutting that emotional part of himself out. And I think it shows a lot about Rand being a good leader, but it is also, again, like I said, it's sad to see him losing so much of that humanity. And then there was another parallel that I noticed with Matt when he gets attacked by Melindra, and he just like, without even thinking, he stabs and he kills her, and he's obviously not proud of it, but he does it. And it was such an interesting parallel with Rand when he was literally being killed by Lanfear. Two girls that he loved, like who are very important to him, are being killed by Lanfear, and he still can't bring himself to do it. So that was really interesting, and I hope that what happened, it will kind of be the turning point for him to realize that, like, okay, some females are very, very evil, and like you do need to kill them. And so that brings me to the end of my discussion, which is the ending. Oh my god. Okay, so this is what I was waiting for with Lanfear. Like, we've been knew Lanfear is crazy, but everything we've seen of her is cold. It's like she's all cold rage, cold anger. And this, when she finds out that Rand had slept with Avienda, oh, I've got words to say on that too. Anyways, when she finds out that Rand has slept with Avienda, and she just loses it in like burning rage, I was like, yes, like this is what I've been waiting for from Lanfear. Like, I was just waiting for her to go crazy, and she did. She blew up a wagon and then came out and started just like killing left and right because she was so angry. And it was great. It was scary because you finally see, I think that they'd mentioned that she was the strongest Forsaken underneath Samael. I don't remember who they said was the strongest, but I remember that Ishmael. She was the strongest underneath Ishmael. And so like we see that strength from her now, and it was terrifying, and it was so good and so well done. And just for Rand to be there, like staring at her as she's killing him, as she's killing Egwene and Avienda, and to just be like, I can't do it. I can't bring myself to kill her. Even while like Lews Therin is in the back of his head being like, I know her weaknesses. I know what you can do. I know like how you can kill her. And he just wouldn't do it. And then Moiraine, my absolute queen, Moiraine, she knew since Redian that she was going to die on this day. And she, not only was she going to die, that like her death was the best possible outcome of this day. And she knew the whole time, and she walked there with her head high and all her queenly grace to her death. And now it also makes sense for how like desperate she was to get to Rand in the beginning of this book, when she was like, I will honestly do anything if you just let me teach you and give you the advice I know you need. It makes so much more sense to me. I mean, not that it didn't make sense before with her character, but now like when you think about it, knowing that she knew that she was going to die soon, it makes so much sense, because she's like, I know I don't have a lot of time, and there's so much Rand needs to, and there's just so much that Rand needs to know if he's going to go on, if he's going to be the Dragon Reborn and like fight the Dark One at Tarmon Gaidan. And it was just so much. I absolutely love Moiraine. I adore her. I also don't believe for a minute that she's actually dead. Listen, until I see the body, she's not dead. I don't want anyone to confirm or deny this for me. Obviously, I just want to read and find out. But my theory is that she wrote Rand that letter, and she says, if you're reading this, then you know that I am gone. And she specifically uses the word gone instead of dead. And just a couple chapters earlier, Rand had been asking her if the Aes Sedai oath that doesn't allow them to lie still like applies to writing, and she says it does. And so to say, if you're reading this, I am gone, that's a really good like Aes Sedai way to let someone think that you're dead without you actually going out and saying, yes, I am dead. So I think that her and Lanfear are inside that fox world. I'm assuming it's a fox world because, you know, Max got that like fox medallion through that doorway. So yes, I'm just very excited. She is Gandalf and Lanfear is the Balrog, and I am just waiting for her to come back in a few books and absolutely it up. It's gonna be great. And yes, the last thing I wanted to talk about was Avienda and Rand. I love that. I love that for both of them so much. And maybe I'm just stupid, but I didn't realize for so long that she was into him. Like, I was like, why is she so angry at him? And like always talking about like how he belongs to Elaine, and how, you know, Elaine's beautiful body. Now it makes sense. She was saying that to herself as much as she was saying that to Rand. And she's so funny. Like her, just like her ordering herself to get, like, to have to go run laps, I think it was. No, her ordering herself to get whipped or flogged or whatever because she like lied to Rand about like not feeling anything for him or something. I was like, Amanda, it's okay. Like, you don't have to go that far. But yes, that was great. That was so sweet, that scene in the igloo. Overall, I really, really loved this book. I'm so excited for The Lord of Chaos. I've heard 4, 5, and 6 are the best in the series, and 4 and 5 were definitely amazing. So I'm super excited for book 6. So if you guys have read this series, read this book, or have read the next ones, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. If you haven't read this, why are you watching a spoilery discussion? All right, thank you guys so much. Bye-bye.